Hello everyone. This is our next matchup, this time between our wonderful live stream host Gyuden versus the Giant Gorlurks managed by Pez. Both of these teams are very interesting because if you take a quick look at both of the teams that were drafted, I would say there is a very hard emphasis on Trick Room for both of these teams, with Hatterene being drafted in the second round by the Mt.Silver Boulders on the Gyuden side, and Uniqueless, another Trick Room setter, drafted in the second round by the Giant Gorlurks. Both of these teams also center around Pokemon that excel more in Trick Room, with Mega Ampharos at a base 45 speed and Mega Venusaur at base 80 speed on the Mt.Silver Boulder side. Team drafted around Mega Golurk, the single Mega Pokemon of Pez, drafted in the first round at a 55 speed, and only a single Pokemon higher than 70 speed, with the Salazzle, a very strong fake out user at 117 speed, but the rest of the Mega Golurks team is extremely slow, with 70 base speed or lower for all of the rest of the Pokemon. Meanwhile, the Mt.Silver Boulders have a somewhat more balanced team, I would say, with the Mega Greninja by far the fastest Pokemon on this field today at 142 base speed. Second is the Espafra, which can become extremely fast with the ability Speed Boost, which will gain speed at the end of every single turn it stays on the battlefield. This gives Mt.Silver Boulders a little more flexibility when it comes to speed, rather than the hard Trick Room type of team that the Galiant Gorlurks have set up here in their draft. I would say it is very hard to predict what the matchup we will see today. I think both of these teams have drafted overall a pretty well-rounded overall core. One thing to note is that a couple of key Pokemon on the Mt.Silver Boulders are pretty weak to ground types. The Mega Ampharos, the Aegislash, and the Toxapex are all weak to ground type moves being super effective. While the Espafra, the Aegislash, and the Hatterene are all weak to ghost type moves being super effective. So I believe today we end with the Galiant Gorlurks having 3 ground type Pokemon. I am very much expecting them to bring a couple of them here today. I will note that this team has a pretty tough time against certain ice type Pokemon, with the Mega Golurk, the central nucleus around the Galiant Gorlurks team, being weak to ice type moves. This Mega Greninja, which has the fastest speed naturally across all 20 Pokemon that can come today, having the ability Protein, which allows it to change its move to any single type, giving it stab on anything, and it does in fact have access to some pretty strong stab ice type moves. Notably the move Blizzard or Ice Beam, due to the fact that it is both a high base attack stat and its high base special attack stat, letting it use pretty much any type of move that it wants to, depending on how Gyuden decides to play this. I'm very much expecting Mega Greninja to come here. I believe that Pez, having built a team that is centered around this Mega Golurk, will be bringing Mega Golurk to every single matchup. So it will be very interesting to see how Pez has prepped for this Mega Greninja or any other super effective moves onto this Mega Golurk. Due to its ground and ghost typing, it is not the best defensively. It is weak to 5 different types, being dark, ghost, grass, ice, and water. There is 3 water type Pokemon on the Mt.Silver Boulder side of things, and it will be very hard to make sure that they survive here. As we enter this match, taking a look here, we have an Araquanid and Uniqueless lead for the Galiant Gorlurks, and the Mega Greninja and Mega Venusaur brought out here by the Mt.Silver Boulders. Interestingly enough, they did bring all 3 of their Megas to this matchup alongside Machamp, Aegislash, and Hatterene, giving them access to different types of speed control with the Ampharos, but also the possible Trick Room mode with the Hatterene. The Greninja comes out and does kill the Uniqueless, while a Skitter Smack by the Araquanid is super effective onto the Greninja and also reducing its special attack. The Galiant Gorlurks brought Mega Golurk, but also paired it with the Mr. Rime, Hippowdon, Torterra, Araquanid, and Uniqueless. There are, I believe, multiple different ways to set up Trick Room here, as Mr. Rime, I believe, learns Trick Room as well as Uniqueless. Araquanid is a pretty good Pokemon into this matchup due to the fact that it has the hidden ability Water Absorb, which gives it immunity to water type moves, which is pretty good into this matchup. They only brought one of their water type Pokemon in Mega Greninja here, and meanwhile, the Mt.Silver Boulders brought all 3 of their ground type Pokemon, switching out the Paralyzed Greninja for the Aegislash, while the Venusaur connects a super effective grass type move onto the Hippowdon and the Araquanid, as the Hippowdon goes for a Yawn. Skitter Smack into the 4x resistant Aegislash here, the very currently in defense stance, as it has not made an attacking move yet. Machamp is an interesting Pokemon because right now, due to the limited amount of items in Pokemon Champions, there's actually not an easy way to get the ability Guts activated. So the flexibility of this Pokemon is a little bit weaker. However, due to its 130 base attack stat and having an access to a pretty wide range of moves, it is still a pretty flexible Pokemon, most notably having access to a decent amount of supportive moves such as Anchor and Wide Guard here, although it can output crazy damage if they decide to go down that kind of route. The Venusaur goes to sleep here as Hippowdon heals to full. Neither of these teams brought their speed control into this initial matchup, with the Mt.Silver trying to go for pretty much straight up raw speed control with just their raw base stats. The Aegislash here goes for the defensive play of King Shield, trying to just stall out these turns of sleep on the Venusaur, as Hippowdon clicks Dig. Dig is a super interesting move here, as it is a 2 as it is not the same as the conventional Earthquake that is commonly run in this kind of meta. Hits into the Aegis Slash, which does in fact protect it. Brings out their Pez brings out their fourth Pokemon in Torterra here. The Aegis Slash attempting a double King Shield as the Hippowdon finally connects the 2-turn dig onto a super effective move onto the Aegis Slash. A critical hit, although I think it would have killed either way. Maybe not. The defensive version of Aegis Slash is very bulky, but the critical hit might have mattered there for the Oko. It is now down to 3 apiece for both sides. Brings out the Greninja. That is paralyzed at relatively low HP. Sandstorm will be active for, I believe, one more turn left here. Finally evolves into the Mega Greninja, giving it its increased speed. The Venusaur wakes up here, the first to move, clicks the Leech Seed into the Hippowdon. This Venusaur is very hard to remove for this current team, as I believe the only Pokemon that does super effective damage to it is the Mr. Rime, a 4x effective Ice Beam into the Torterra, I believe. As I mentioned earlier, the protein with the Ice Stab move is super strong. A Fire Fang is revealed from the Hippowdon, a 2x effective move onto the Venusaur here. However, the Venusaur is just a naturally very bulky Pokemon, and due to it not being stabbed, it does not do an insane amount of damage, and this Venusaur can now heal up with the Leech Seed that it implanted onto the Hippowdon, and it is stuck with that for the rest of the game. Okay. Araquanid clicks Protect here, while the Venusaur hits a Sleep Powder that connects onto the Hippowdon here. Very unfortunate turn for the Galiant Gorlurks. While a Flip Turn is connected onto the Hippowdon and revealing the final Pokemon here for Gyuden. It is the Hatterene in the back. Apologies, had to take a call there. The Petal Blizzard by the Venusaur does kill the Hippowdon finally, and Guden takes game 1 of the set. Some interesting things to note there with the Helping Hand reviewed by the Hatterene and the Sleep Powder by the Venusaur here. At the end there with the 2 Leech Seeds on both Pokemon, it was extremely hard for the either Pokemon to be able to remove the Venusaur from the battlefield. It seems that the Fire Fang by the Hippowdon was one of the answers attempted in order to kill the Venusaur. We will see how both of these players adapt for game 2. Perhaps the Mega Golurk that was not sent into game 1 will be brought into game 2. It is very much possible that from here we see the same leads from Gyudon, as I would say that the flip turn from the Greninja as well as the Ice Stab is honestly a very strong lead into pretty much every Pokemon here. The Leech Seed Venusaur is also just generally a pretty hard Pokemon to remove from the battlefield, as there's not really many super effective moves. I think perhaps that the Mr. Rhyme and the Mega Golurk will be brought into this battle. Taking a look here, as expected, it is the same starting lead for the Mt.Silver Boulders as the Reuniclus and Torterra comes out. Now here they need to be extremely mindful of the Protein Stab Ice type move that comes from the Greninja itself. The Reuniclus here could potentially be attempting to set up Trick Room in order to bring in the Golurk. Unsure what kind of moves this Gorlurk may have, however with its ability Unseen Fist, it will allow it to move, it will allow it to hit any Pokemon that clicks Protect. The Greninja immediately clicks the Mega here, same Mega as last game, and hits an Ice Beam straight into the Torterra with the protein. It changes to an Ice type. This is a 4x effective move as the Torterra falls immediately. That is an OHKO on the very first turn. It is now a 4 versus 3. Leech Seed onto the Reuniclus, but the Reuniclus avoids it as the Reuniclus sets up a Trick Room here. We'll see if they bring out the Golurk, because now I believe they have the speed control due to the Venusaur's 80 base speed being way too fast under this Trick Room, and the Greninja definitely being the last to move. The Golurk does in fact come out seeing an adaptation from the Galiant Golurk side of things. It has access to a couple of different moves. A Psychic comes out from the Reuniclus, a 2x effective move onto the Venusaur, and it lives on the red. Perhaps a calculation that was specifically intended for that. While the 2x effective fighting type move onto the dark type Greninja does not kill it either. It's a crucial confusion though that might change the game. A Petal Blizzard onto the Greninja, which still survives at 7 HP. The Greninja is confused, uses Flip Turn. This is a very effective move, does not kill the Golurk. We'll see here. You see the Machamp sent out here. This is a very precarious position for the Golurk. The Golurk now does Mega Evolve into its Mega version. While a Protect is clicked by the Venusaur, now this Golurk can still kill it through the Protect. The Psychic into the Machamp possibly was a prediction for these, and Oko's it while the Golurk uses a Phantom Force. Now this is a 2-turn move, but it goes through Protect, although it doesn't really matter with the Unseen Fist. But now this is a guaranteed attack onto what is likely the Venusaur slot. It is now 3-3, however, but the Greninja and Venusaur are both in very low, both at red HP, while we have yet to see the fourth and final Pokemon from the Galiant Gorlurks. The fourth Pokemon actually unrevealed for both Pokemon, as there is 2 turns of Trick Room left, so we will see if they can manage to take advantage of that. A Protect comes out from the Reuniculus and a double Protect comes out from the Venusaur. It fails, but it likely would not have mattered anyways. Meanwhile, the Greninja uses a Dark Pulse straight into the into the Reuniculus spot. The prediction here means that now they are at the Galiant Golurks are at the advantage with 3 Pokemon to 2. 1 turn of Trick Room left. The Hatterene is the first to move though, due to its horrendous base speed of 29, being 1 point slower than this Reuniculus. So unless one is a negative speed nature, the Hatterene will be the first to move this turn. The Hatterene moves first, clicks a Dazzling Gleam, which does kill the Golurk. This is the final turn of Trick Room, so the Reuniculus can kill the Greninja. But the Psychic is not effective. It is actually, the Greninja is immune to Psychic due to its Dark typing. A blunder by the Galiant Gorlurks, as the Trick Room is now set to normal and the Greninja is now the fastest Pokemon on the field. An Araquanid here, and I believe this Araquanid has not revealed any priority moves. It could have access to the move First Impression, I believe. It does not have the move First Impression here. But so far, no priority moves have been revealed, so this Greninja could potentially get a free hit into either the Araquanid or the Reuniculus. And Helping Hand onto the Greninja, as a Protect is clicked by the Araquanid. This might be a Dark Pulse into the Protect, a double Protect by the Reuniculus and an Araquanid. Now they are not able to attack next turn. A Dark Pulse into the Araquanid slot. It is possible that the only move that this Reuniculus has is Psychic, the only attacking move. This Reuniculus has not revealed too much thus far. But now, due to no speed control, the Mega Greninja will in fact be the first to move this following turn, as neither of these are Choice Scarfed. A second Helping Hand, likely a Dark Pulse straight into the Araquanid again. And it hits, as the Araquanid does not go for a double attack, but the Araquanid flinches, but it is so bulky it survives a Helping Hand Dark Pulse as Trick Room is set up, giving them back to speed control. However, Hatterene is in fact the first to move in this Trick Room, as we have seen before, and with the Reuniculus at red HP, a single Dazzling Gleam would in fact kill the Reuniculus. The Reuniculus going for the Protect here, as the Araquanid, a Water Shuriken, a priority move onto the Araquanid, I believe. As a Dazzling Gleam is clicked here. Both Pokemon in the red now, while a Skitter back comes out from the Greninja. However, I'm not sure as if this is enough, as I believe a single Dazzling Gleam from this Hatterene will kill both Pokemon who are at 12 and 22 HP respectively. And Dazzling Gleam is 100% chance to hit. That comes out from here from the Araquanid. As the Dazzling Gleam comes out, kills a Reuniqueless. The own Trick Room that was set up by the Galiant Gorlurks will in fact be the reason why they lose here, due to the fact that the Hatterene moves first with its 29 base speed to the Reuniqueless's 30 base speed. Overall, an impressive match from both trainers as the Mt.Silver Boulders take the match 2-0 against the Galiant Gorlurks. GG's, congratulations to Gyuden for their first win, and that is all of the matches for today.